The Israel Defense Forces did release this video clip right here showing Hamas fighters surrendering to Israeli troops. Those fighters, you can see their hands are in the air. They strip down and unload their weapons onto the ground. Israel says those 70 Hamas gunmen surrendered at a northern Gaza hospital. Now, I do want to talk about the video and other details surrounding the war. A lot of developments happening. Rob D'Amico, retired FBI agent, former member of the FBI hostage rescue team, and the founder of Sierra One Consulting, joining us now live to talk all about this. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to be here with us.
Always good to be on here, Josh.
So first off, can you kind of explain what it is we are seeing in this video? And I'm going to pull it up so you can get a better look at it.
What you're seeing is a surrender. So it is one of those things that can be really dangerous. You think it's a surrender and you almost let your guard down. I've had numerous tours in Iraq and Afghanistan where the enemy has used those encounters to actually kill service members. So they'll look at parading out, and then they come out and under their clothing they're wearing IEDs. So they're wearing human devices that are going to blow up and kill security forces. So we started doing what we almost do back here in the States. When we bring someone out, we have them get down, we have them either lift up their clothing or somehow get down to where we can see their skin, that they're not wearing a device that's going to kill us. They dressed up as women in full burqas, and they would do the same thing, and they would get a grenade out and such. So you have to be really careful. Because again, this is when you're getting close to interaction with the enemy, and anything can happen. We've had it where the bombers were making suicide vests so that when we told the people to put their hands up, they had little loops there that their thumbs could hook on that would detonate the vest. So it would look like they're giving up, they're putting their hands up, and when they would just hook it and then they would detonate. We also had other people that would be remote and would see when they got there and the person wearing the vest didn't even cook it off. It was someone remotely with a cell phone or remote control that would activate the vest on us. So you have to get very careful. All these practices get passed along. We've used the Israelis to train us on some things. I'm sure we've trained them. We used the British SAS because they had ops in Northern Ireland to pass along these lessons learned. And we learned a lot of this in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Do you think there's a lot of misunderstanding about why this is happening? Because if you look on social media, you see these photos, you see those videos that are circulating, and people say, what's going on? Why are these fighters being forced to strip down? And there is that kind of misinformation that's passed along. But as you mentioned, it's kind of important.
It absolutely is. No one's been over it. I'm sure the soldiers in America know exactly what's going on, and people who have been in combat. Because it just happens. But until you're there and you understand, and then you also have the people that are playing on the misinformation. The terrorists are great at that. They take a clip of something. It could be a baby shoe, and they make this outrageous story about what happened to it. And in fact, it was just a shoe that got misplaced on a raid that we were searching for something. So the information space, it doesn't have to be true. And then you get people just kind of throwing gas on the fire and starting saying that, well, why are they stripping down? It's for their safety too. You don't want the Iraqi, Israeli soldiers getting hyped up if someone's doing something. So when you know you're safe and you have the clothing removed, that they're not wearing a device, you can do things differently. I was surprised that all these people aren't zip tied when they're doing things. They have people coming out. We used to zip tie them until we figured out who we could talk to and such. And then sometimes we'd unzip tie people and we talk to them. But you have to be very careful during these interactions. And they're laying out all the weapons that were in there. That's for intelligence and documentation. We used to call them SSE shots, sensitive site exploitation, where before we blew it all up, we would take photographs of it, one, so that we could provide it to like the Iraqi court to show that this person had these in their possession, but we didn't want to, we didn't have enough room to carry them out on the helo with us, so we would blow them up in place. But we'd take pictures of them, and that's what they're doing. They're laying out all that information of what those people had.
I want to talk to you here about a report that we have been receiving. We've heard from the Wall Street Journal. We've heard from several journalists in general, and the IDF is not commenting on this, but there are those reports that Israel is actually pumping seawater into the tunnels there that are under Gaza that are Hamas tunnels, where there are questions about whether hostages are being held down there. Is this a tactic that could work, and does it put some of those hostages possibly in jeopardy?
It absolutely can work, but it does put hostages in jeopardy. I'm sure they're doing it with some intel collection on that maybe this tunnel or this area is being used for offensive operations or something in that. Maybe they have listening devices, spiked down through the ground that they're trying to listen for hostage-related material before they do it. But there is a war, and unfortunately, the hostages could be collateral damage on some things. I'm sure they're trying. I'm sure they're doing everything they can. But when we're doing bombing and other things in Afghanistan, Iraq, you have to do what you have to do on the war side, and you try to take into consideration the hostages. So I'm sure they're doing some of both, but in order to clear some of those tunnels for the offensive operations so they don't get troops coming up behind them and such, they probably have to do that.
And one thing that a lot of people are talking about now, President Biden did make comments this week that Israel is losing the world's support due to its, quote, indiscriminate bombing of Gaza. Does it appear that Israel is, in fact, losing support based on what you are seeing?
I believe there's some. I believe in the beginning, they were behind on the information side of things, and they lost some support. And then I think they gained some back. And I think they're going now back into the side of losing some perception of people with that. And it's one of those things. It's an ebb and flow. It's who has the ability to capture moments and then use that on the information side. And it's what people are now seeing. It's like when we started hearing from hostages and understanding the horrible conditions they were in. I think it tilted one side. And now that we're starting to see some of the destruction in Gaza, it's starting to shift, and it's a constant back and forth because frankly, just war is a horrible thing. It's going to be bad, and it's never going to come out. So the picture people are seeing is putting a perception in there that Israel has gone too far.
And I do want to ask your opinion here, as we know that President Biden has been over to Israel since the war began. We've also seen Secretary of State Antony Blinken take several trips over there. We now know that Jake Sullivan is there. We actually expect to hear from him a little bit later. What is the significance of Jake's trip, but also all of these trips in general?
I think it's really important. I think some of these meetings, you have to look face to face to someone and discuss something, especially hard news. If they're going over and delivering a very stern message, they want it to be from the principal, looking at the person eye to eye and saying something that's not going to be pleasant. And that's the way it needs to be done. It shows how important it is. A phone call or anything else other than that, having the ambassador to go, or it's just not enough. So I think it really shows that we are stepping into an area that is not going to be, I'd say, is not going to be well liked by Israel with whatever message we're sending, and it has to be brought by a certain person. Now, you always kind of keep it to someone who is manageable, that you can repair that. So if it's a national security advisor, then you can step it up to the Secretary of State, or you can step it up to even the president himself to fix things if it goes right. But that's going to be the first step in this communication. You saw it in Afghanistan, Iraq too. When we bring someone over, it wasn't a good message. You could always tell kind of at what level it was going to be by who was coming over to deliver it.
All right, and I do actually want to get to some breaking news involving the war. You and I were just discussing this, but take a look at this tweet that came in a short time ago from the IDF, as they do say that during IDF operational activity in close proximity to a mosque in Jenin, soldiers acted against IDF codes of conduct within a religious establishment. The soldiers were immediately removed from operational activity after receiving the videos and after an initial inspection of the incident by command commanders. The behavior of the soldiers in the videos is, quote, serious and stands in complete opposition to the values of the IDF. The soldiers will be disciplined accordingly. Your thoughts on this altogether as this information is coming in?
When I first read it, I thought they did something horrible in the presence of Hamas, and it's going to have reverberations around the world. I thought of two things that came to mind were back in 2012 in Afghanistan. The first one came out in January. It was I think it was 4 Marines urinating on the corpses of dead Taliban, and it had huge effects. And then a month later, some workers, some American Afghan workers took books out of the prison that the prisoners were using to pass information back and forth and get into more terrorist-related activities. So they took this box and they put it out for destruction, and it just went into the regular trash. And the Afghan garbage men saw some burned Korans, and it was a unbelievable response to that because they took it as disrespect to the religion. And you had Afghans that were on the American side shooting Americans. I think 4 Americans died, and there was a whole bunch of other injuries in that. But they were friendly Afghans that just took it as we were disrespecting the religion. So this, whatever it is, I don't know exactly what it is. It's not good, but Israel, I think, is getting out in front. They're admitting it. They're saying it was terrible. It's not in the IDF or the Israeli, morals to do this, but whatever it is, it was captured. It's going to come out, and Hamas is going to use that. But I think it could also have effects worldwide.
All right, Rob D'Amico, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and help break down the latest information here. Again, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh.